Hi there, it's Holly. What I want to talk to you about today is how to build an online team or remote team culture. It's one of those things that's so important yet overlooked so often. People don't think about it. They just assume if you have freelancers or contractors, then they're there to do a task, you pay them, and that's it. Which is slightly true, except the fact that if you want those employees to be happy or those team members to be happy and stick around for a long time and also think about your business while you're sleeping, then you want to give them a great experience even if they're not there. So let's get into it. I'm going to share my tips with you. Tip number one, you want to give them a great experience from the get-go. This can be send them a welcome package, whether it's physical to their physical address or not, or maybe it's a webinar, maybe it's an intro with the team, but the onboarding is what's going to set you apart at the beginning and it's going to get them excited. Tip number two, build a Google site, which is free. It's what I use. You can build that and basically share your mission, vision, and values. It's part of the onboarding experience, but it's also a place that they can go back to for reference. I suggest having a welcome letter, what your company's about, and what you want to achieve, because by providing that to them, they get really excited. Tip number three, and one of my favorite ones, is send them birthday cakes. Doesn't matter where somebody is, there's usually a cake shop or a hotel that will deliver cakes. It's one of those things that is a very small gesture but can make a massive impact. You could also send pizza, you could also send a birthday card or send Christmas cards at Christmas. Whatever it is, make it personal and make it different. Tip number four, document. Oh, can't tell you when I started. I didn't really have a proper job before. I was essentially working for myself. I had one job. Well, no, I had many jobs, but one corporate job. No one told me to write processes and documentation. And although this might not seem like a company culture thing, it actually makes it easier for your team member to do really well at their job. So what you want to do is, whether that's a training manual that's a Word doc or it's put on your Google site, maybe it's a webinar or a screencast. It does not have to be perfect, but that information's really going to help your team member so they don't have to ask the same questions over and over again. The other thing that I would suggest doing is actually write down some of the learning lessons and the things that you've tried, because when you bring on new team members, they have this tendency to say, oh, let's try this, let's do this, and which is fantastic, and that's the culture you want to build. But the one problem with that is that if somebody comes into the business and you've been running the company or the business for 3, 2, 5, 10 years, and you've tried those things and they haven't worked, it's really important that you've documented it, because then you can show the new team member essentially what you tried and what worked and what didn't and why it didn't work, because you want to have science or data ideally that backs up your thoughts. And although you may have tried, for example, paid ads and it didn't work, they may realize they actually missed something. Or they may say, oh, that's exactly how I would have done it, and wow, I'm surprised it didn't work. But it means that you don't lose that valuable time trying things again. Tip number 5. So because you don't have an office or a workplace, essentially, I find what you can do is actually give your team members or your remote employees a pass or the opportunity to go work in a co-working space. They don't necessarily get your team culture, but they really get the culture of a startup, of other entrepreneurs, of other workspaces. And usually if it's early stage, fast growing businesses, it's similar. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but it gets them out of their house or out of a cafe, because a cafe can be great, but at the same time, very static and similar, where they don't get to meet and interact with people. Tip number 6, if possible, have a meetup. If it's all possible, get your employees or team members to meet up. Now, I understand if you're starting out, it's expensive. You can't fly people from Australia and Europe and America and, everywhere in the world and afford to have them in one place. But if you have a lot of team members in a certain area, like they are in one country, say for example the Philippines, or are in America, or are close to each other in Europe, and what I've done is pay for people to fly or meet up with each other. It's a great way to just build a small team bonding session, I guess, between a few team members. A great other suggestion is hire an Airbnb and allow them to go hang out at the Airbnb. One of my dreams to have the whole team fly. We haven't been able to do it yet, but I always try and meet up with a team member if I'm close to them, or fly them to me if possible. So those are my tips. I would love you to try them and let me know how you go. If you have any other tips about building a remote team culture, then do share them with me. I would love to hear them.